Good morning. My name's Anita Daher. I'm a Canadian children's book author. On Monday, I decided, because classes have been interrupted in Canada and in most places of the world, I think, and because at least one class I know of was in the process of reading my book, Forgetting How to Breathe, my middle grade to junior high novel, I decided I'd read a chapter a day. Monday I read chapter 1, Tuesday chapter 2, Wednesday chapter 3, and today I will read chapter 4, but this will be the last chapter that I read from this book, because something I didn't take into consideration, and I really should have, because I've been in this business long enough, is the effect that it would have on my publisher. This book is still fairly new, and they're still selling it, and publishing houses are hurting, as so many businesses right now. My new book, which is a teen novel, You Don't Have to Die in the End, is just coming out. It's on its way to bookstores now, but the book launch has been canceled. Small book publishers in particular really rely on the sales bump that a book launch can provide to help pay back that huge outlay of cost. The biggest outlay, I believe, goes to the printers, but there's so many costs. And so now that won't happen. And so I really have to be respectful to my publishing house and not read any more of this. That said, any teachers who were in the process of sharing this book with their class who would like to make arrangements with me privately, we can do something else that's not so public. I would really love to do that, so please get in touch with me through my website, and I think the information is just down below on the YouTube. Okay, it's just my name, anitadaher.com, and it's Daher. Not too hard to find. I hope you're doing well. I'm really tired today. I came down with a cold last week, and so have been in self-isolation because I don't think we should be spreading any virus right now. We should all be walking around assuming that what we have could be coronavirus, and that way we keep everybody safe and help flatten that curve. But I am really tired today, so I think I'm going to read this and probably just go lie down again, and why not? Let's take good care of ourselves. All right. Chapter 4. To anyone else, the rustic lodge kitchen with its home-crafted touches would be cheery, but as Tia sat at the table shaking cereal into her bowl, she sussed tension in the set of Kathy's shoulders. Warily she watched as Kathy took last night's plates from the dishwasher and placed them, one by one, in the cupboard. Finally she turned. "I'm just not sure about this, Tia." "About what?" Tia had already guessed what, but wanted Kathy to say it. No way was she going to make things easier for her. "The animal shelter, the job. Bob and I talked about it more last night, and it's just not a good idea. For us. For all of us, as a family." Tia felt her inner storm clouds gather. "We are not a family." "We're..." Kathy faltered. "Okay, that's not the point. You told Grandpa Beebe and Jennifer it sounded fine." "I know, but... Look, this doesn't have to be an argument. I'm just concerned." "Concerned?" "Yes." "Then why did you tell Grandpa Beebe and Jennifer it was okay if you didn't mean it? Were you lying?" Kathy turned her head to the side as if struck. She took a deep breath, closed the cupboard door, and joined Tia at the table. With the back of her spoon, Tia crushed her cereal against the side of the bowl. This was just another terrible placement. "Tia, Kathy took another breath. "Look, I understand why you're upset, but this isn't just about you. It's about all of us." Tia put her spoon down. "So it's because you care." "Yes. I don't want you to take on too much when everything here is so new to you." Kathy placed a hand over hers. "And even though we're not a family by birth or adoption, we're still connected by caring. I'd like us to have a little time to bond." Tia jerked her hand away. "What's the point? Temporary. Remember? My mother is coming back." Kathy turned her head away, but not quick enough to hide her frustration. Tia had been watching for it. That and more. At least Kathy wasn't yelling. At their last placement, there would have been yelling. "But Scout is there," Tia said. "Scout? The dog you wouldn't let us keep. Maybe if you liked animals, you'd get it." I like animals, Kathy said. For goodness sake, Tia, it's not that I didn't like the dog. It's just that we have our hands full running this lodge right now. Tia bit back a whatever and searched the bottom of her cereal bowl for inspiration. There was one more thing she could try. If she said this next part just right. But Scout is over there, and the horses, and they need help, and... She snuck a sly glance at Kathy. And helping animals is something I'm good at. I'm not good at much. The pain that flashed in Kathy's eyes startled Tia. Focus, Tia, she told herself. Don't feel bad. Don't cave. Besides, it isn't a lie. Not exactly. After 6 loud ticks of the clock on the wall, Kathy sighed. It was what she was waiting for. Tia mustered her most hopeful, pleading, pitiful look. At least she hoped that was how it came across. Please? Kathy moved back over to the counter and poured herself a coffee. Finally, she turned. You should think about joining the debating club at school, Tia. Seriously? She hadn't expected Kathy to give in so easily. Is that a yes? Kathy studied her. Just give me today to think about it, okay? I really want us to work as a family. But it's Saturday. If she pushed just a little harder, she could be at the shelter in 10 minutes. Give me today, Kathy repeated. Tia held Kathy's gaze. It was firm and unyielding. Fine, Tia muttered. She put her cereal bowl in the now empty dishwasher, her mind still working furiously. It was going to take more than words to make this happen. It bugged her that Kathy had already said yes once. The fact that she'd gone back on her word said a lot about her, and none of it good. It didn't matter. Tia was ready for the challenge. Mama had always said actions spoke louder than words. If she wanted Kathy to say yes, Tia would have to show Kathy bonding. She would bond the heck out of this day until there was no way Kathy could say no. One day, no problem. She just needed to give a little more than she had been. Be cooperative and stuff. After rinsing dishes collected from lodge guests, she loaded the dishwasher while Kathy pounded bread dough in a big bowl. When Kathy asked her to wipe the dining room tables, instead of groaning and rolling her eyes as she usually did, she nodded and said, Of course. Not too much, she told herself. Don't let Kathy think this is fake or a way to control you. No one would do that. Not ever. Tia was her own person. Mama had always let her be independent, encouraged it even. When Tia had wanted to go to her first day of kindergarten wearing her sweater inside out, which was way more interesting, Mama had let her. And when Tia had come home from school 3 days later saying the kids were mean and she wanted to quit, Mama had let her do that too. She'd warned her, however, that when she decided to go back, and Mama assured her that she would not lie and write a note to say that Tia had been sick. Instead, Tia would have to stand up and tell the truth. And so she did, which didn't help her situation with her classmates. Even little kids could be cruel. Thankfully, Mama had moved them to another part of the city a few months later, and Tia had started kindergarten afresh, this time with her sweater right side out. She was nothing if not adaptable. Tia washed the sticky bread dough from her hands and hung the apron Kathy insisted she wear on a hook by the door. She found Kathy sweeping the back deck. The twins bundled the matching jackets and hats nearby, playing with cups and sandcastle shovels. Want me to look after Summer and Day? She asked. Kathy looked up at her as if startled. No, that's fine, Tia. But if you're looking for something to do, we just had a guest check out of cabin 2. Will you gather the linens? Sure, of course. She saved her scowl until she was around the corner. Sorry, I'm smiling because I'm remembering what's coming up. She had finished her babysitting course, and she'd been looking after Tag since almost forever, whether Mama had been around or not. But no, Kathy wouldn't dare trust a foster kid to care for her precious babies. After dumping the linens in the laundry room, Tia ducked into the hallway nook turned office where there was a computer for guests and waited, trying not to fidget, while one of their departing guests, a children's book author who had been there to soak up the quiet and finish some final chapters, printed out her airline boarding passes. With a goodbye and a promise to read the book once it came out, Tia slipped into the chair and began her research. When Kathy said yes, again, to Ice Pony Ranch, Tia wanted to be ready. She was comfortable around cats and dogs, but needed to learn more about horses, Icelandic horses to be specific. This would be her first real job, and she wanted to be ready to pitch in anywhere she was needed. If you're going to do a job, do it better than anyone else. Mama hadn't given her that advice. No one had. It was just something Tia knew. She typed Icelandic horse into a search engine, and before long her mind was feasting on photos and information. She learned that Ices were smart, loved people, and were typically very strong and healthy. They also had 2 special extra gaits besides walking, trotting, and galloping, which which most horses could do. It was called the flying pace. The other, called the tolt, was like a smooth running walk. Tia thought back to when she'd first seen the horses pounding down the road, knees lifting high, followed by a quick downward step, but so level it was like they might carry a bowl of soup on their backs without spilling a drop. That was probably what they'd been doing then, tolting. The Icelandic horse might just be the most interesting breed ever. How cool that there were a bunch of them right here in Gimli, and how lucky she'd been invited to work with them. Okay, fine, the job was at the shelter, but Grandpa Bibi had hinted she might also work with the horses. It would be extra awful if Kathy said no. A tug at her shirt made Tia jump. It was Summer. Her sister was right behind her, finger in nose, as always. "Tia," Summer whimpered, looking nervous. Alarm shot through her. She spun her chair and dropped to her knee in front of the child. "What's wrong?" Summer was a bold, loud preschooler. She didn't whimper. Summer tipped her head to one side. "My ear hurts." Oh no! Not the right thing to say. It was as if she flipped a switch, causing Summer to accelerate from whimper to wail in 2 seconds flat. "It's okay, Summer." She tried to sound reassuring, but it was hard to be soothing and comforting when she had to shout to be heard. She glanced up the hall. "Where's your mom?" Bob was probably working in the yard, but Kathy should be somewhere close. "What happened?" she asked Day. "De walks," Day said, looking unconcerned. "Rocks?" Tia's hand flew to her sweater pocket. 2 days ago the sun was warm, snow had melted from the lakeshore, and Tia had collected a few small stones she thought were pretty. She'd shown them to the twins and explained she might make jewelry from them. They liked them and had wanted to see them again and again. When the snow had started falling again, Tia forgot about the stones. She pulled them out now and counted. 1, 2, there should have been 7. "These rocks?" Tia had to shout to be heard above Summer's cries. "The other ones," Day said. "What other ones?" "Not those ones." It didn't make sense. Tia picked Summer up, cradling the screaming child against her shoulder. Where was Kathy? Clutching Summer, she raced down the hall and met Tag at the kitchen door. Behind him on the table, there was his hat, a screwdriver, and what looked like an old radio with a panel removed. "What's going on?" "Find Kathy." As Tag dashed out the door, Tia saw one of the plastic cups the twins had been playing with sitting by the door. Inside she saw what looked like her missing stones. Not the ones currently in her pocket. It was the other ones. Missing, now found. All but one, which couldn't have been bigger than a pea. "One of these rocks?" Tia asked Day, shouting to be heard. "Not those," Day said, looking at her like she was crazy. "The walk in her ear." Kid logic. Panic washed over Tia. She tipped Summer over her knee and at an awkward angle and jiggled her body from knee to knee in hopes that the errant stone would fall out. Rocks were not supposed to be in children's head. What would happen if it didn't come out? Would Summer go deaf? Would it somehow go through to her brain and kill her? As Kathy rushed in with Tag hot on her heels, Tia was shouting like a maniac, "Out! Out! Out!" Kathy tossed a wet rag she'd been carrying on the counter and lifted a red-faced and wailing Summer from Tia's lap. "Hush, sweetness, hush." Her voice was quiet, but still easily heard. After a moment, Summer's shrieks softened to a whimper with an occasional hiccup. Kathy turned to Tia, her face tight and unreadable. "What happened?" "It wasn't my fault," Tia said, her voice small. "Just tell me." "She took one of the rocks I found by the lake," Tia rushed. "I think it's in her ear." Instead of panicking, Kathy nodded as if this made total sense. "Have you got rocks in your head, my love?" she cooed. Day squealed with laughter. Summer gave a small, uncertain smile. After setting Summer gently back on the floor, Kathy turned her head and peered inside her ear. "Not to worry," she said, her voice light and calm. "A pair of tweezers will take care of this toot-sweet." "Can you get it?" Summer whimpered. Kathy smiled. "Wouldn't you rather have Dr. Butler take care of this, honey? He fixes up children all the time." "He gave me medicine," Day offered. "Yes, he did, sweetie, and he'll take care of Summer, too." Tia watched and listened with a mixture of horror and awe. "Should I call the clinic?" she asked, anxious. Kathy smiled as if she had just offered to check movie listings. If it was an act for Summer's sake, it was very good. "Sure, tell them what happened and that we'll be there in 10 minutes. Tag, will you ask Bob to get the van?" Tag nodded and was off like a shot. While Kathy bundled up Summer and Day in boots, jackets, and mittens, Tia flipped through the phone book, hands shaking. She accidentally tore a page. "Oh, man!" she cried. When she glanced up, Kathy's mask had fallen slightly, her face now shadowed with a slight frown. "The number's on the fridge, Tia." She hustled the twins out the front door. As Tia dialed the number, an echo of what had just happened settled in, along with the realization that Kathy would never trust her with the twins now. It was so unfair. It wasn't that she wanted so badly to babysit, but she hated being misjudged. A moment later, Tag came back inside, shivering from the cold. "What were you doing outside without your jacket?" Tia scolded, harsher than she should. Her emotions were all mixed up in a ball of something somewhere in between panic and anger. She wasn't mad at Tag, though. She was mad at herself. "I was on the porch. Still not okay to—" "Oh, hello?" Tia turned her focus back to the telephone. With the clinic receptionist on the line, she explained quickly what had happened and that Kathy was on her way. Now that the urgency had passed, Tia couldn't help but notice that when push came to shove, Kathy had bundled her real family into the car, even though there was no need for Day to go. Whatever, she and Tag were used to being left behind. Tia was at the computer, busily erasing all the notes she'd made about Icelandic horses when Kathy and Bob returned with the twins. "All is well," Kathy said, dropping a pebble on the desk. Tia snatched the stone and threw it in the trash can. Kathy watched but said nothing, probably finding words to tell her the job was out. Tia had screwed things up again. It hadn't even taken her the whole day. "I guess you're mad," she said. Kathy raised her brows. "That Summer stuck something in her ear? Of course not. Kids will be kids, though I don't think she'll do that again." Tia nodded. "That's good." Kathy was still looking at her. If she wasn't here to blast Tia about Summer, why was she staring at her? Maybe it was worse. She felt her armpits begin to sweat and itch. In the heat of the moment, when Kathy burst into the kitchen, Tia had Summer over her knee. It must have looked awful. Even if Tia's intentions had been good, Kathy hadn't even asked her to explain. This was it. Kathy and Bob were done with Tia and Tag. Sure, she'd been ready to leave yesterday, but that had been her choice. And it hadn't been to another temporary home. It had been to find their mother. Different situation entirely. Tia dropped her head and waited for the inevitable. At least she would have the satisfaction of hearing fake mom come clean about how she really felt. All of that talk about bonding was complete garbage. She didn't really care about Tia and Tag. She was just like everyone else. Tia willed the butterflies and nausea brewing in her belly to stay put. She snuck a glance and saw Kathy was thinking hard about something. But when she finally opened her mouth to speak, the roaring in Tia's ears was so loud she almost didn't hear what came next. "Not every day. Every 2 days at most. Family and homework must come first." What?" Confusion swirled. "Ice Pony Ranch," Kathy said. "You still want to work there, don't you?" End of chapter 4. Please remember our small independent bookstores. I know when we're buying books, we don't think about bookstores. We think about authors that we like, but give a thought that everybody's struggling right now. And if you were planning to go to a book launch and it was canceled, maybe you'll consider ordering that book from a bookstore anyway. Some bookstores are offering delivery. McNally Robinson here in Winnipeg is offering curbside delivery. You can order online and they'll bring it right to the door for you. Lots of things going on. Okay, I have to tell you, I was smiling in the middle of this. I said it was about what was coming up, but it's because I actually, with the help of a filmmaker friend of mine, Cameron Patterson, brilliant director, I adapted this to a screenplay. And so in the movie version, Tia brings some fresh linens to that author's guest, whose name happens to be Maggie Stamp. I decided a long time ago that my pseudonym, if I ever needed one, would be Maggie Stamp, because my middle name is Margaret and my maiden name is Stamp. So there you go. The first day of spring. The world is turning. Things will get better. Be well. I'm going to spend today reading and resting. I hope that whatever you do, you are filled with gratitude and hope and know that everything will be well.